Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. Obviously, it's your business. Keep up what's going on in the news. Also, trying to figure out some of these news stories. Incredible events unfolding up in Ohio, in the Cleveland, Ohio area. A story that, frankly, looks stranger than much of the fiction I've ever read. Three young girls who disappeared over a period of a couple of years not only show up but living together in a house held hostage for over a decade. I've got Dr. Bart Rossi on the program, and we're going to talk a little bit about this extraordinary story. Dr. Rossi, before we get into the story, a little bit about yourself. Go ahead and tell us about yourself and the work you do.
Well, I'm a political psychologist. I like to talk about the politicians and their personalities, and I've had a lot of experience in clinical psychology, talking about personality and criminal minds and kind of a vast range of experiences in the profession of psychology. I like writing about the politicians and the issues and, gay marriage and immigration and the psychology associated with almost everything. But this story is certainly one that's just beyond the pale of reason and is so overwhelming that it's just quite something, with these three women being held.
Yeah, no question about it. By the way, Dr. Rossi is often on Fox News, MSNBC, CBS, Wall Street Journal, and many other locations. You can find him at Brossi, BROSSI.US. So, your thoughts about this story? It's got to be one of the most extraordinary stories that you've seen of this type.
Yeah, my initial thinking was something like this. I mean, the depth and the magnitude of the brutality here, when you're thinking about sexual abuse, physical abuse, and emotional and psychological abuse that probably could be best described as nuclear, if you want to use that word. I mean, the overwhelming hurt that was done by these three men is just unbelievable to me.
Yeah, and I have no idea how these young women recover from this. I mean, this is just extraordinary. And then I think of a 6-year-old girl that was raised in that environment, what her life is like going forward. I mean, this is really quite extraordinary.
It is, and there's one girl missing. There was apparently a fourth girl. Now, I'm wondering if she was murdered in front of the other three so that they would be intimidated enough to know that they must comply with all of the wishes of these guys. So, I mean, I think it is so extraordinary, so far beyond the realm of reason that it is quite something. Now, in order to help these women, I think there's a few things that I'd like to say about that. First off, I don't think you ever get past something like this. This is not something you get treatment for and you get it behind you and you move on with your life. This is more like a situation where it becomes a process of living, where for the rest of your life you're going to need help and assistance because of the flashbacks, the thoughts, and everything that transpired. Mm-hmm. But with that said, I think that if these folks are integrated well into their families again, which I think will happen, and if they get a really good psychologist who's very, very well trained in cognitive behavioral therapy, that would help overwhelmingly. That would be great help. But lastly, if they could get some help from people who have had a similar situation, not too many out there, but there is, J.C. Dugard and there is Elizabeth Smart and people like that who maybe could give some advice in terms of how they're coping. Mm-hmm. So if they go down that road with those 3 points, I think that they can make adjustments and live an effective and a positive life.
Yeah, Elizabeth Smart's story obviously is astonishing, but I hate to say it, it pales compared to this. There's nothing I've seen like this. And, of course, the young man, you did mention the young man who was held for, I guess, a decade himself. So his is probably the closest of that stories as well. But my gosh, these are just such unbelievable cases and incredible what happened in this quiet neighborhood, and there was this man who was a neighbor of the of that house who, said, I've been here for years and never knew that was going on. He ended up being a hero in that situation. Charles Ramsey, I believe is his name. And, of course, he doesn't feel like a hero. I'm sure he's probably right. Most people would have done that when they heard someone screaming like that. But then again, you could hear his own guilt and remorse for not being aware that this was going on right next to his home.
Well, I think that's something to look at. That's a very good point because I think, hiding and right in the middle of society, hiding right in the middle of everything, works for a lot of these terrorists and these weird individuals with these crazy thoughts. They're hiding people right in the middle of our society, and it works sometimes. It works because, they make it look normal. They make it look like it's a normal house, but obviously it wasn't. And,
well, it's so audacious. It's just so audacious is why I think it does kind of work. People will never think their next door neighbor has, 4 hostages.
Right. Exactly. That's what, and they probably thought that. They probably, and the more time went by, and the more power and control they had over these young women, the more emboldened they became, and I believe the more accomplished they felt that they could get away with this over time. So that's the type of thinking that we're dealing with these 3 individuals.
Yeah, and I think of the neighbors that, like this Charles Ramsey, who actually sounded devastated in his interview in his very own unique way. He's become a viral sensation, incredibly cool interview. But, some of those neighbors are going to need some therapy.
Yeah, I mean, they just feel badly. It's just so shocking to them that they couldn't pick up on this. And I think for the family members especially, too. We're talking about these 3 women and their adjustment, but family needs to adjust to this because now that these girls have been returned, they're going to feel in time that, they lost, 10 years of a loving relationship in their own family, and these people were taken away from them. And not just anger, but rage against these people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then, and in fact, I heard that a flyer was actually put on the door of that house for one of the girls 10 years ago. I actually heard that in the news as well. That's how close, by a family member, that's how close the family got to getting their family member back.
Well,
unbelievable.
I think the police need to take a look at hiding in plain sight, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They do. And at the same time, there's more tensions when it comes to our civil liberties than any time in our history. I'm worried about a government that's too intrusive, too in our lives. But at the same time, it really is a difficult balance to maintain, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there always has to be a judgment call, because if you think that there's something wrong, there people have rights, but what about the rights of the victims here? What about their rights that we take a look at whatever we have to look at so we find them?
Yes, unbelievable.
There's got to be a balance. There has to be a balance.
It's a tough job. I'm glad I don't have to make that call. I get to sit here in my peanut gallery and criticize both ways. So, but yeah, it's tough stuff. I appreciate you being with us. I think probably the Cleveland Police Department is going to probably do some pretty serious internal review on how they do things because of how this ended up panning out. You think so as well?
Absolutely. They need a review from top to bottom. And I'm not saying that to be overly critical. I just think that they need to take a look at, as I said before, hiding in plain sight, people with these types of minds, following up on all kinds of leads until, the cows come home. They got to really dig and not just show up at the door and knock and no one shows up, go away.
Yeah.
They really have to be very, very deliberate in their investigations.
And you think about it, I mean, Cleveland's not a huge town. You're talking 3 young ladies within a year. You think this would be something that would never just be allowed to go away. But again, it's easy for me to talk again from my peanut gallery up here. Dr. Bart Rossi's been our guest. B. Rossi, BROSSI.US is his website. I encourage you to check it out. I'm going to try to get you back on again and talk some more about this. And thanks for being with us.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Great stuff. All right, when we come back, we're going to have more for you. We want to remind you, best content here shows up over there at usdailyreview.com.